Today we're going to go over message center communications. These include creating a message, working in your address book, doing notifications on messages, reminder messages, and consult messages. We're going to start out by logging into the application as a doctor. You'll click the message center icon to get to your message center. All the different types of communication that we can do within Message Center under this Communicate button, which include your message, your reminder, and your consult. We're going to start with a message. Within the message, you're going to want to type the specific patient that this message applies to. It'll come up with your patient search. You're actually going to pick a specific encounter that this message is in reference to. Or you can add a whole nother encounter to that patient. So in this instance, I'm going to add it to this Sage encounter. In here, you can say who you want this message to go to. If you're not sure, and you need to look it up in your address book, just click the binoculars. It's going to take you to your global address book. Within the global address book is everyone who has access to Message Center that you might want to send this message to. An important thing to realize is if there's someone that you message quite a bit, you can right-click on their name and add them to your personal address book. Once you have those personal addresses that you use frequently, you can click on your personal address book and you can see everyone that's within your personal address book. You add those over into the message for whoever it's pertinent that you send this message to. You can also include yourself in this message. So if you want to send it and just want to include yourself so that way you see the message after it's been sent, you can just add yourself. You can also copy people just like in an email. So you could copy whoever needed to be pertinent to this message. So that way you can see your personal address book. It populates down here and you just click on a name and then you just add them into the message instead of just having to click on the binoculars. Another important aspect to note when sending this message is that you can make it a high priority message, so that way it will always populate in the high priority messages in the inbox. You can also notify yourself if you want to be notified as soon as the message that you've sent has been opened by the individual. You can also notify yourself if it hasn't been opened in a certain number of days, or maybe if it's overdue if it hasn't been opened. You can also notify additional people, so that way if it becomes a chronic issue and somebody's not checking their message center, you could send this to whoever the appropriate personnel is to make sure that they are opening and utilizing their message center. Within this application, you can also save to the patient chart. If this is clicked, this message will automatically go into a patient chart. If you do not want it to go into any kind of chart, you need to unclick the message so it doesn't go into the patient chart. Another thing in the subject line, which is important to note, and the functionality has not been built out yet, is subject message templates. An example of this would be medication refill. There'd be like a medication RX template when you pull down the pull-down menu. It would actually have a template for medication refills within the application. So in here, you can just type a message just like you'd normally type an email. Anything that's pertinent to the patient that you maybe want to address or bring up. You can also take certain action on this certain message. So maybe it's a phone message call or any certain action that you maybe want to click. You can also send a reminder so that way you don't forget about this certain message. You could set it up to maybe remind you in like a day. Or maybe if this has some action that we need to take, we could just set a due date on this message. And then you just send the message. This also prompts you to notify you, do you want to save this to a chart? If we don't want to save it to a chart, then we just say no. But if we want to, say yes. And now that message has been sent. The next type of communication you can send is a reminder. It's very similar to a message, except that it's specifically a reminder for something that you need to take on a patient. So in this case, we're going to pull up a patient. We're going to pick a specific encounter. We're going to say who this message is going to go to. The subject is a reminder message, and we're just going to include ourselves in this message here. And then in particular, this is the part that's important in a reminder message. You want your reminder to show up at what time? So right now we have it in 1 minute. And that's where we're going to have it show up in our message center. And then we can just send our message. Another important aspect to communicate within the message center is a consult. This is where you're actually going to be able to consult another physician on a patient. Again, the functionality is very similar to everything that we've already looked at within Message Center. So you can put in your patient, say what physician we want to consult. And we're going to plug in a subject. You can save it to a patient chart if you want this consult to show up inside there. Why it's important to choose the specific type of communication you want to send, whether it's a reminder, a consult, or a message, is because that's how it's going to be routed into these folders in Message Center for the physician who's receiving it. So you could just plug in your message and have it remind you or notify you, or have it a high priority, just like we've done in all the others. It's going to pop up this little window here. It's going to be notifying, seeing if you want to save this message because it is potentially patient-related, and just say yes or no. And then that message is sent. And that's how you communicate and send messages between providers or anybody who has Message Center within PowerChart. Another note to make is just message journal. This is really important in the aspect that you can bring up any message that has been sent on any specific patient. So if I want to look at maybe every message that's been sent on this encounter regarding this patient, all I got to do is just go to Messaging Journal and plug in my patient. And I can see all the messages that have been sent on this specific patient, on this specific encounter. And I can do my range of dates. Okay, and this covers this tutorial.